Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome to my channel. Well, with me getting done with Kingdom Hearts Melodies and Memories and the Remind DLC and watching Doug Walker's Disney-cember, I decided to do another Disney game. And noticing the shortcut to this game being on my computer for at least 4 years now, decided what the hell, why not play it? It would be a good game to poke fun of because the movie was absolute feces in my opinion, cliched as well as stupid. Basically a bunch of mutated animated gerbils who are not mutated but can still talk to people are being trained by an eccentric scientist in order to become FBI agents. And yes, it's as lame as it sounds. My girlfriend who watched it with me and has seen it before told me you would never guess who the villain is. I turned around and said right away, it's the mole, isn't it? Asked how I guessed it. So easy, I said it's a kid's spy movie, and someone who isn't very clever decided to make a stupid twist on a very bad pun. And yeah, that's about how clever the movie is as an adult. It's stupid, it's kind of boring, and completely predictable. And no, I don't feel bad spoiling it at all. I just saved you from watching a predictable Disney live-action movie and saved you from spending 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. So, I played through the game, and you want to know something? It's actually pretty good. Not great, not groundbreaking, but it knows what it wants to be, and it's far better than this movie license deserves to get from a game. The game takes the last 15 minutes of the film where they decide to infiltrate Samberlink, a company that produces household goods that G-Force has come to expect wants to take over the world. And expands on it a whole lot, which is kind of a good thing. It's probably about the only time anything halfway imaginative or interesting happens with all these simple household objects turning into monsters, so taking these action sequences and expanding them wasn't a bad idea. Although, two problems do come up with this idea. First, what do they do about Speckles the Mole? As I said before, he is the villain. But you see, he fakes his death in the middle of the movie by jumping into a garbage truck. Since we do need to see him, they decided to just bring him back at the beginning of the game, announcing he managed to survive and wants to help out.
Greetings, Darwin.
Speckles? What? I thought you were... What happened, old friend?
I adapted your plan for escape, Darwin, and managed with great difficulty to get out of that trash compactor in the nick of time.
But since the rest of the movie is never mentioned outside this mention in the garbage truck, it can be a bit confusing. I just can't help but wonder how newcomers will see it. If you have seen the movie, you already know he is the villain. If you haven't, you wonder what he's talking about and what he means by said garbage truck. Also, unlike the movie where he is more misguided, in the game he's pretty much an evil double-crosser and beyond all salvation, making you want to bring him down by the end all that more, and I actually kind of enjoyed that little twist more in the game than in the movie. The second problem with the story I'll get a little bit more into with the graphics because it's ironically tied into that. But I will say this, when you expand something that is, say, 15 minutes long into a 15-hour game, it does start to feel a bit drawn out. Fortunately, they keep the cutscenes low. Outside of a few bad jokes being said over the intercom, most of the intercom noise is meant to help you figure out a puzzle, and it sticks to just simple missions that each stage presents that the main character Darwin has to figure out in order to progress through the game. So let's talk about the gameplay, the one thing that the game does that is surprisingly decent. The gameplay is actually pretty good. While I was expecting a very dumb and very easy action game that would probably be broken because it's a licensed game that no one gave a crap about, what I actually got was a pretty competent made action puzzle game. Like I said before, you have to navigate through each stage and get through the traps. And oh boy, are there plenty of them. I guess I should explain the combat in the traps. While our standard enemies like mice, PC, and waffle ovens, for example, can be taken out by whipping them, yes, Darwin has a whip, and he does do a few Gabriel Belmont type of moves if you just press the button real fast. Or you can shoot them with many of these standard ray guns that you can unlock throughout the game. Other enemies like the microwaves or these freezers have to be taken out by specific means, meaning you have to use a little strategy in how you approach some of the enemies. And then there are enemies like the motion sensors and the fire extinguishers slash flamethrowers that you have to use in certain ways to solve puzzles. Things like trying to figure out how to bounce laser beams off walls, and or find a way to disable satellites, or in later stages how to distract certain enemies with holograms so you can either sneak by them or trick them into attacking the right object so you can get into somewhere else. And by the way, they use Darwin's size here so you can get into narrow passageways and sneak around. Actually kind of clever. The best part though is when you have to use Mooch the Fly. Pressing up will let you switch to them whenever you want, and with them you can fly around obstacles, and you have to use them to get into places even Darwin can't, so you'll have to use them to open doors, shoot a few enemies, and disable these satellites that can put barriers up that block Darwin's progress. That said, you do have to watch out. Any bug zappers in the area and Mooch will be zapped and you will be sent back to Darwin. Still, he controls well, and I just had a lot of fun exploring these areas with the fly eye view and just solving puzzles with him. It never felt like a chore to switch to him and check out new areas. As far as the challenge, this is a kid's game, and I was kind of surprised that a game from 2009 actually put lives in a game, but again, the more I played, I realized the puzzle nature and why they are there. Dying never sends you back too far, but it does send you back far enough so you can re-examine the area and come up with a new plan of attack. Die too many times and you can be sent back just a little bit further, but not too much again. Lives are there, deaths happen, sometimes a bit too easily, but there is rarely a big penalty, except for one area that's this area where you're in this place where they're putting a washing machine together and you have to avoid certain parts. Not only is this trial and error, but the one part of the game where death sends you clear back to the beginning of the stage. It does annoy me when games do that. It's just out of the blue they change the penalty for dying. In this stage, it definitely qualifies for that. I did not like this area. Thankfully, it's short and the only stage that really does it. I should also mention one last thing. There are a time or two when I went back to explore a little bit more after accomplishing a mission, and the game was pointing me forward. Messed up and died and wound up behind a locked door. Again, stages for the most part are thankfully short, so reloading didn't set me back, but it didn't make me happy whenever I encountered it. It only happened in one or two areas, and it's because I did things out of order, but still, the game does have those type of bugs in it. Oh, and one last thing I have to talk about. In between set changes, if you want to call them set changes, again, talk about that in the graphics, you have to drive into the new areas and these little hamster balls shooting enemies and obstacles and jumping over pits. I actually found these to be somewhat fun and a nice little palate cleanser from the more slower paced puzzle solving. I wish there were more than just a small handful of these in the game. Anyways, let's talk about what is probably my least favorite part of the game, the graphics, and it's for interesting reasons. I am not going to say that the graphics are crap, or that they suck, or that they're bad, because on a technical level they're not. The game runs really smooth on my PC, and for being over 10 years old, the character models look a lot better than a few other 10-year-old games that I've been playing lately that were going for the ultra-realistic route. And I'm looking at you, Alan Wake, and considering how this was made with a Wii port in mind, I won't dock them too much that the fur on the guinea pigs is a bit lacking in contrast or texture. It's just kind of modeled on them. But there is a big problem with the graphics that have to do with the way the set pieces and stage design is made. The problem is, they're boring. I mean, you start at Saber's Mansion, which is a super clean, high-tech area. Then you go into a lab and maintenance area, which is another super high-tech, indoor, clean area. followed by the FBI labs, which is again another super clean, mostly indoor, high-tech area. No outside areas except for when you're traveling by these hamster balls. No daytime areas or anything like that. They're all indoor clean lab areas. Followed that by again, they're cramming 15 minutes of actual plot into a 15-hour game. And it does get to feel after a while that you're ironically stuck in a hamster wheel. Oh, you're definitely moving, that's for sure, but you're not sure if you're actually ever moving forward or how fast. It does make the game feel a little bit monotonous after a while. I just feel like some areas went out of the way to provide something a little different this game would have felt better, and there was a time or two where I thought about maybe quitting, and then one of those hamster ball stages came back and made me feel sure that yes, I was indeed progressing and moving forward. As it is, the graphics are passable, but they are just plain boring. I just wish they did something to liven them up a little bit from time to time. Most of the actors from the movie don't return to voice any of the character, but we do get some decent sound-alikes, and I think they do a good job. As far as the music, I don't remember any of it, which means it wasn't terrible, it wasn't very good, it was just kind of there.
You inside the mansion?
Safe inside. Laster, Juarez, hit me with an update.
En route to the target.
Just where you want. In position and prepare for exfil.
Well, this game did surprise me. I did have some fun, despite a few story hiccups and some rather boring and same-looking set designs for each of the stages. The action was decent, and the puzzles, although meant for a younger audience, were well made. I don't know if I will ever play this game again, but I can say if you find it on sale for $10, it might be worth picking up. It's certainly a better way to spend your time than watching the piece of crap movie it's based on. Well, have you watched the G-Force movie or played this game? If you have, feel free to leave a comment down below.
Is crawling with those appliances.
I know. Just wish me luck.
Speckles, wait! Speckles!
He's gone, Darwin.